Hey there, Abiding fam, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey Lee, and today we are going to be setting up my July bullet journal. And I love that this currently looks very peaceful. Creating a cup of coffee, don't things look calm and peaceful over in my world? When in reality, it was quite the task trying to put together this video for you guys because I am leaving for my honeymoon in literally 6 hours. I need to be getting into the car with my very dear husband, who's being very kind and waiting for me to record this voiceover before we leave so I can finish editing and get this video out to you while I'm at the airport. So that is kind of what's happening over in my world, and it actually is very fitting that I share that with you because my whole theme for July is based on where we are going. We are going to St. Lucia for our honeymoon. I'm going to flip through June though. If you haven't seen that, go and check it out if you haven't already. And I love my June highlights page, by the way. Very cool. I'm getting very off track, but this is going to be a all the way through voiceover. I'm not going to pause because I really need to get on the road. Anyways, as I was saying, the theme for this month is based on where we are going, which is St. Lucia in the Caribbean. I am so excited. And if you look up anything about St. Lucia, the first thing you are going to see is these great mountains, which are the Pitons. And they're kind of the focal point, the main landmark of the islands. And so I'm so excited to use that as my cover page. And what I love about this, guys, is these are watercolor pencils. And this looks like a child did it right now. So bear with me. It's going to get prettier, I promise. If you looked at the thumbnail for this video, you know that that is not how it's going to stay. But that's what I love about using watercolor pencils is you can act like a total child and just scribble on the page. And then once you bring in that water, it's going to smooth everything out and make it look really beautiful. Now, a problem I had is it looked very nice, and then I brought in the purple. And I'm sure you guys have had moments where you look back at something and you're like, why didn't I stop when blank? But instead you went a little bit too far and put in something that then didn't look as nice as you thought it was going to. And that is what that purple was for me, adding that in. I didn't like. So after drying it, I was like, you know, I really don't like the final color of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try a mixed media effect and bring in some of my washi tape. So that's what I ended up doing. And it was a really happy mistake, guys, because even though that wasn't my initial vision for this page, I originally was picturing just a nice watercolor painting with the July on it, and that would be it. I really like the mixed media effect, and so how I ended up fixing the mistake ended up being an even prettier page and worked out really well. So just know that when you make a mistake, sometimes in order to solve it, that's what's really going to draw out your creativity and force you to think outside of the box. In this case, I'm thinking outside of the box by using washi in a totally different way. I'm just using it as essentially a mixed media effect. I'm putting it over the mountains in a very collage-like look. And I love the final aesthetic of it. I think it looks really great. So be okay with making mistakes because sometimes that's what's going to lead you to the most creative solutions. Now I'm going to write in July. I'm doing this part in real time so that you can see it and how long it takes to actually do hand lettering. And this isn't even brush lettering. This is just a very simple monoline hand lettering, but because I want it to look a certain way, I'm really taking my time with it. Then I went in and just highlighted the downstrokes with an even darker added line. Basically, that is called faux calligraphy, and so it's a great solution if you're somebody who doesn't have brush pens but wants that same look. Just make another line next to your downstrokes, and you can add that in. If you want to learn more about that, I did just put out a video on hand lettering. It's about hand lettering signs, but I put a ton of tips in there that you can use for any form of hand lettering, so highly recommend you check that out. And that is my finished cover page. I love the way it turned out, and even though for me it represents St. Lucia because it has the Piton Mountains on it, it really just looks like any island to the average viewer. So For me, these entries are really just a tropical theme, so you can copy this, make them however you want, and I'd love to see you guys try that washi technique. See if you can create a collage using your washi within a shape and how it turns out. If you do, make sure that you tag me on Instagram so I can see it. The next part that I wanted to bring in for my trip is the St. Lucia parrot. So this parrot is only found in St. Lucia, and it is so beautiful and has such vibrant colors that I thought it would be a really fun element to bring in to my journal. So I decided to once again use the watercolor pencils, but this time I felt like the water wasn't holding up super well. I saturated my page a little bit too much in the minimalism art journal. So I decided I would just use a separate piece of watercolor paper. That way I could use as much water as I wanted, and then did all of the color on top of that. Once again, I did a pretty scribbled parrot, but once I brought in that water, it's what really brought it to life and blended out all of those colors and just made it really pop and vibrant. I then also decided that in order to add the finer details, sometimes it's hard to do that by using just one medium, especially if you're not somebody who's super artistic. Believe it or not, I am not super artistic. I can't do all of the finer details with watercolor. So I often bring in something else like a black pen, as I'm doing here. And then in this case, I'm using my Prismacolor pencils. These are just normal colored pencils, and I use that to add in some of the finer details of the feathers to just add that texture and really make the parrot look more lifelike. But ultimately, guys, the whole point of using watercolors and mediums like this is that it doesn't have to be perfectly lifelike. So if yours looks a little bit different and just has a fun vibe to it because it's a little off, that's okay. Just embrace it. Okay, so now my next page, I wanted to bring in once again that tropical vibe, and this is really nice because you can do this for any tropical page. This is certainly not St. Lucia specific, nor really were the other ones. I mean, a parrot and mountains next to water is not really one island specific, but you know, I was trying to represent the specific place, I'm going to. So here I'm just doing those really pretty palm fronds, and I love this look because it's very simple. The actual drawings are very easy to do, but what makes them pop is when you color in the background. In this case, I'm just keeping it simple with black and white, but you can have fun with it, use different colors. But it's amazing how making it more of a silhouette and having that backdrop colored in really makes a difference. So definitely try that technique. So I decided to just write July goals for this page, and you're going to see in a little bit that I'm going to come back to this page and add to it after another mistake. But first, let's jump over to this next page. In this case, once again, I'm going back to St. Lucia specific, but you can do this with any place you're traveling to, a place you want to travel to, or just make up an island shape in the background. So this is the outline of St. Lucia and the way that it would look on a map. So I decided to do the watercolor effect again with a wet on wet technique, which is exactly as it sounds. It is putting down the water first, so wet, and then adding wet watercolor on top of it. And then I just blotted it with my paper towel to soak up all that extra moisture, and then it gave it a nice, very light look to it, which is what I wanted because I just want it to be a background. I don't want it to be super colorful and saturated because otherwise what I'm putting over top isn't going to stand out. So what I decided for this month is I don't want to do a full out calendar because I'm going to be away for 2 weeks, essentially, give or take. So I really don't need to have a ton written down in my calendar because half of this month is kind of taken up by our honeymoon. So I decided to just keep things more simple this month by doing a tiny little calendar, bringing in again that same silhouette technique with the palm fronds because I wanted to play off and mimic the previous page. And then what I'm going to do is have a key for this calendar so that my events are a certain color, my reminders are a certain color, holidays, so obviously I'm from the US, Independence Day is on the 4th, So that'll be in there. And the idea is that then I can just list out the different events and reminders and dates that are important under this header here, and then just mark on the calendar those dates so that I can see it still in the calendar layout, but really the dates are just listed out for me. So it's a different way of doing it. It's nice if you have a simpler month and know that there isn't a ton on the calendar, but still want to have a calendar to look at. This is a great way to do that, so I highly recommend. Here is another mistake. So I should title this video the episode of bullet journaling where all of the mistakes happened. Yet that is the way it happens when you're bullet journaling. It's not a perfect process, and so you really just have to go with it. If your bullet journal looks perfect, then it's probably not being used properly. Just putting it out there, right? Our bullet journals are supposed to be a little bit messy because life is a little bit messy, and bullet journals are a reflection of that. So I misspelled Independence Day on that and then had to go back and put washi over it to try and spell it right. And you'll see that I didn't like that solution later on and changed it again. So now let's jump back to this page. Our next one is going to be very simple. So because the next 2 weeks I'm on my honeymoon, so I don't plan on having any hardcore day-to-day dailies and to-do lists, I decided to just have one page that is just a plain old blank space for me to write any to-dos that come to mind in that time frame. So I brought in, again, a palm frond. This time I'm coloring in the actual frond, just doing one, and this is another way of doing them, is you can do the little dots. Now here is the mistake I was talking about. So I accidentally got marker on the previous page because I wasn't paying attention. So I decided to fix it. What I'll do is I'll just extend that marker and essentially turned it into vines. So I actually like the way this turned out. I think it gives it a nice frame, keeps everything very cohesive, but you wouldn't know if you were looking at the end product that that wasn't the initial intention, right? I just had to come up with another creative solution to fix a mistake. And here is what I was talking about. I got rid of the washi tape and decided I'm just going to try and write over it to write Independence Day. It looks a little botched because it's bolder. Obviously, it's clear that some of the letters were messed up underneath, but oh well. Just gotta go with the flow, moving on, because we got places to be. So that is the finished page for those two now, and you can see there the color-coded effect, which really worked out well, and I think is going to suit me very well this month, which is the whole point of bullet journaling, is that we can switch things up because it's not 12 months already planned out for us. We can adjust each one to our needs that month. So that's what I did, and that's what I'm doing on this page as well. I'm just adjusting it to what I need right now this month, which is just a plain old page to write down to-dos. So I just wrote to-do at the top, and then I did decide to do a little bit of drop shadowing with a highlighter, and then I'll throw in a little bit darker of a drop shadow with the black pen as well. And that's all I did so far for this month. I am likely going to be putting in some spreads related to my vacation in St. Lucia and some planning for that. But you might have to stay tuned for another video to see those. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video and that it gave you some inspiration for creating either a tropical theme or ways that you can incorporate an upcoming trip into your own bullet journal. Thank you guys for watching. I love you all so much, and I hope you have the most amazing month of July. Keep exploring your abiding creativity and document a life full of abiding joy, faith, and love.